So, what is the argument and the evidence that the mind is the product of the brain entirely?
Yeah, there's a ton of evidence, as it's not possible to do it all in a quickie. But I list several categories of evidence in my book, Sense and Goodness Without God, where I go into this. But we have, fundamentally, even since ancient times, we've had what's called localization of function studies, where we found that specific things the brain, let's put it this way, specific things the mind does correlate with specific parts of the brain, such that like faces, our knowledge of faces is stored in a physical location of the brain. We know where. Our ability to see is in one location. Our ability to hear is in one location. Our understanding of tools, like tools, are stored in another place. Words are stored in. So in other words, everything that you think of as the mind has a location, something physically in the brain that's doing that thing. Now we know this from like probe studies and all kinds of different science. But one way we know is, and this is the best way to know how a brain works, is to break it and see what happens. And so brains get broken by accident, so you have brain injuries that can destroy sections of the brain. And what happens is when you destroy a part of the brain that does a certain thing, the mind loses that thing. So like if you destroy the part of the brain that stores faces, you cannot remember faces. And so like it's that kind of weirdness. You can see the structure of the face, eyes and everything, but you can't remember, you can't attach that face to a pattern, you can't describe it to an artist, you can't connect it to a person. And so like that's weird, right? And so if you have like a section where you have certain words, you lose those words. If you have a section that has certain memories, you lose those memories. So this shows that everything that we think of as a mind is attached to some sort of physical machinery in the brain, and once you lose it, you lose it. And then we know this chemically. Like if you go unconscious, if we pull the oxygen out of your blood, you go unconscious. Do you experience anything? Is your mind still around waiting? It's not. You fall unconscious and then you wake up and you experience no time in between. Not even darkness, nothing. And so there's attempts to like argue that, oh no, what about near-death experiences where people like their minds float around when they're dead, and that when you actually go into those, it turns out those are urban legends. They actually aren't true. The hallucination occurred. First of all, it was a hallucination. We can show that it was confabulating. It was making stuff up. Wasn't actually aware. Also, we can't establish that it occurred during brain death. It actually occurred at a different time, and the story just sort of like telephone games it into as if it was occurring at the same time. So even those attempts, which would be the way to disprove mind-brain physicalism, those attempts are fake. They basically are bogus urban legends type stories. But the actual science does not back that. The actual science shows that our mind is totally dependent on the brain. And there's other things like comparative anatomy. So like animals, the abilities of animals are completely related to the structure of their brain. And we can show that our structure of our brain goes back through to